Every year, Martin Luther King Day allows us to pause, reflect, and remember the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose important role in the history of our nation continues to influence our development as a democracy. It is a day of remembrance to honor the incredible life of Dr. King, who touched, influenced, and forever changed countless lives through his courageous leadership, words, and actions. It is a day of celebration to commemorate the progress made in advancing civil rights and social justice in our country through the efforts and hard-fought victories of so many people. It is also a day of reflection to acknowledge that racism and systemic racism still exists in our society, that we have made important strides in becoming a more loving and caring world, accepting of all individuals, but there is still significant work to be done to continue addressing inequities within disadvantaged and marginalized communities. Dr. Tobias Guzmán, our Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Dr. Cedric Howard, our Vice President for Student Affairs, have unique and important perspectives to share about the significance and importance of this day. I now turn it over to Dr. Guzmán and Dr. Howard to continue the conversation.
Thank you, President Feinstein. In understanding the importance in celebrating Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as a national holiday, one should understand the fight was not won overnight. From the introduction of a bill in the U.S. Congress until President Ronald Reagan approved the bill in 1983, it took 32 long years for the bill to become federal law. It took another 17 years, not until 2000, for all 50 states to ratify the bill in state government as a holiday. In 1963, while in Birmingham jail, Dr. King penned an eloquent letter to Americans expressing the importance of nonviolent resistance through civil disobedience and protests of unjust laws. At the core, King's nonviolent agenda was a call to all for public service. Dr. King stated that service has the power to unite Americans in shared purpose and create a more just society. Dr. King's holiday is a commemoration of his legacy as a civil rights leader and his dedication to nonviolence. Dr. King believed that nonviolent expressions, such as marches and sit-ins, were essential to combat racial injustice and all forms of discriminations. For many Black Americans and Americans of African descent, such as myself, the third Monday of January is not a day off, but a day on. It's not just a holiday of rest, but instead a time of service in and to one's own community. Now I would like to welcome to our dialogue and discussion a near and dear friend here at UNC. Tobias, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. You play an important role here at University of Northern Colorado as our Chief Diversity Officer in your capacity as Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As a professional of color and a man of integrity, can you talk to us about Dr. King's holiday and what it means to you both personally and professionally?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. So this is my 21st Martin Luther King celebration in Greeley. And I remember that we were in a little room of about 30 people celebrating, and at that time there was no march, but there were some bag lunches and a few speakers. And when I think about 21 years later, although we are in the midst of a pandemic, we are still celebrating in this community of 100,000+ the life and legacy of Dr. King.
Yes.
One of the things that resonates with me in terms of words and Dr. King and this holiday is the simple fact that service has been a part of my life from when I was a little kid. Service was something that in my home life, my school life, and my spiritual life, that was a constant, deep-seated root of how I am and how I work today. I think about the types of things that I get to work on in my professional life, and that is to be in service to students, faculty, and staff. I think about my dad, who was a consummate of a man who did service and work for others. He taught me those life skills because what he knows and what he knew is that that was an important aspect in life. And so I think about Dr. King and the importance of his words to people. And people grabbed onto those words. And many people reflected on them, celebrated them, and ultimately took action to those words. A good example is he didn't have to go down to Memphis to work with the sanitation workers because people always thought that he focused on race, but his work was really about people and service. And so his draw to Memphis was really an example of the type of work that we should be doing every single day, working for others. At the very beginning, you talked a little bit about how long it took for Dr. King Holiday to become a reality. And I'm not sure if you remember, but you and I probably have jammed out to Happy Birthday by Stevie Wonder. Yes. And that song were such simple words in 1979. Those simple words were really a case to create the holiday of Martin Luther King. It was really a testament to why we wouldn't want to do something. And even though those words of happy birthday is such a happy, joyous phrase, the words had meaning of what we really need to be thinking about, and that was the reality of creating this holiday. So that's what I think about, and I'm curious where you fall in terms of your personal reflection about this holiday and what it means to you, and especially as a Black man living in this country, what does that mean to you?
Great question. Thank you for asking. For me, as a Black man that was born and was raised in Macon, Georgia, in the shadows of Dr. King's legacy and his birthplace, every year the parade route would process past my home apartment because we were from the inner city of Macon, Georgia. And every year I would ask my parents and grandparents, when could I participate? I saw uncles, I saw neighbors participate. When could I participate? And every year they would say, you're not ready. And finally, when I was 14, I said, okay, when can I participate? And they said, you can participate when you can articulate what does Dr. King mean to you. See, his dream was an individual dream that had collective impact for all. When you can articulate to us the importance of his dream and what you're going to and how you're going to incorporate his dream into our community, then you can march. And that next year, it brought me joy as a 15-year-old young Black male in Macon, Georgia, to finally participate in my first march. And that is the same dream that I carry with me professionally. That his dream was to make sure that people are not evaluated or people are not looked at based upon the color of their skin, but you evaluate them based upon the content of their heart. And I think that's an appropriate dream to have. And it allows us to invest back in our communities because our community needs the support of understanding the importance of his dream, because it was not just about race. It was not in common times just about sexual orientation or sexual identity. It was, how do you view another person as a complete citizen with all the rights and privileges and respect that they require in order to feel valued within our community. So that's what his dream means to me.
Thank you for sharing that. I resonate with those things that you talked about. And, you know, I think one piece that I think that rings true to a couple of things that you were talking about is the fact that Martin Luther King talked about intelligence alone is not enough, but intelligence and character. And I think about the students that we serve and how we are constantly forced to not just focus on the intelligence, the things that happen in the classroom, but also those things that are happening outside of the classroom, their interactions with others. And that's the character development and character building that I think we're teaching. And I think that sums up some of the things that you and I both have talked about. And I just am truly honored to be able to spend my 21st celebration of Martin Luther King here in Greeley with you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It would be my first, and it's my honor to serve with you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Tobias and Cedric, for sharing your perspectives. I am very appreciative of your leadership and am grateful for your efforts to help ensure we are providing a welcoming, inclusive, and nurturing environment for our students, faculty, and staff. I am very proud of the progress we have made to emphasize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion at UNC. With this year's MLK event being an asynchronous virtual experience, I encourage everyone to utilize the resources available on our Marcus Garvey Cultural Center webpage, where you can read, watch, and listen to MLK-related articles, videos, speeches, and podcasts. While we celebrate Dr. King's life and legacy today, it is important to have conversations and dialogue around social justice and racial inequities, not just today, but any day. I look forward to continuing education and conversation around these issues, including next month as we celebrate Black History Month. Have a great day, everyone.